Why you become 16 again around your family. You can be 35 years old, pay your own bills, lead a team, handle problems that would have terrified you 10 years ago. You can build a life that feels genuinely yours. And then your parent asks one question, and you hear yourself answer in a tone you haven't used since high school. Your sibling makes one familiar joke, and suddenly you're defending yourself. Like you're 16 again. Someone tells an old story about you, everyone laughs, and even though the story happened 20 years ago, you feel an immediate need to explain that you're not like that anymore. The capable adult you spent years becoming doesn't disappear exactly. They just step aside, and someone younger takes their place. Someone who already knows how this room works, what your role is, which comments are coming next, and how to protect themselves without having to think. Then you leave, and somewhere during the drive home, you start wondering, why did I react like that? How can someone with this much self-awareness become a completely different person in less than 20 minutes? But why does your family have access to a version of you that nobody else can reach? Here's what's actually happening, and why it doesn't mean that all your growth has disappeared. Your family is not simply a group of people. It is the oldest social world your brain has ever known before you had a professional identity, a carefully chosen group of friends, or any clear idea of who you wanted to become. You were already learning who you needed to be inside this family. Maybe you became the responsible one, the sensitive one, the difficult one, the person who kept everyone laughing, the person who stayed quiet, so the evening wouldn't become an argument. These roles weren't necessarily chosen consciously. They developed through thousands of small moments, a look across the dinner table, a change in someone's voice, the kind of joke that was safe to make, the subjects that made the room suddenly quiet. Your brain learned, this is how I receive approval. This is how I avoid conflict. This is when I should speak. This is when I should disappear. And because you practiced that version of yourself, for years it became incredibly easy to access. Then you grew up. You left the house. You met people who had never heard the old stories, people who didn't already know which role you were supposed to play, and around them, you had space to become someone new. You became more confident, more direct, maybe quieter, maybe louder. You developed boundaries. You stopped apologizing for certain parts of yourself, but the old version didn't vanish. It simply stopped being needed as often until you returned home. And the answer begins before anyone even says anything. The smell of the kitchen, the sound of your parent calling your name, the chair where you always sat, the particular way your sibling looks at you before making that joke. Psychologists sometimes describe part of this as context-dependent memory, but memory is only part of it. Familiar rooms, voices, and relationships can reactivate old emotional expectations, learned family roles, and automatic ways of protecting yourself. Your brain doesn't only remember what happened here, it remembers who you learned to be here. That's why the reaction can feel physical. Your shoulders tighten, your voice becomes shorter, you begin preparing a defense. Before you fully understand what you're defending, your parent asks, "Are you sure that's a good idea?" And logically, you know it is just a question. But your body hears every earlier version of that question. Every moment you felt doubted, every time someone assumed they understood your life better than you did. So you don't answer only as the adult you are now. You answer with the emotional history of every younger version of you who sat in that same chair. And it happens quickly because your brain is efficient. It doesn't rebuild every relationship from the beginning. Each time you enter a room, it finds the most familiar pattern and begins running it. And the most familiar pattern for being with your family may be one you practiced for the first 18 years of your life. Of course it appears first, but here's the important part. the moment you notice the pattern, the moment you hear the teenage tone in your voice or feel the old defensiveness rising. That moment is not proof that you failed. That moment is the adult in the room. 16-year-old, you couldn't observe the pattern. They were completely inside it, but you can feel it happening. You can recognize it. You might recognize it too late to stop the comment or change the expression on your face, but recognition is still evidence of growth. You are not the same person who learned these reactions. You are the person who can now see them. But here's what makes the room even stranger. You're not the only person becoming younger. Your family members are doing it too. The parent who questions your decisions may be returning to an old version of parenting, one created when you genuinely needed more guidance and protection. The sibling who knows exactly how to irritate you is returning to the role they practiced when you shared a hallway, a bathroom, and years of unfinished arguments. Even the person who normally appears calm and mature may become controlling, competitive, or unusually quiet when the family sits together. Everyone is running their oldest relationship patterns. A room full of adults who have built careers, relationships, and entire lives, briefly becoming younger in one another's presence, not because they haven't changed, because the relationships remember who they were before they changed. But sometimes the hardest part isn't that you become younger, it is that you don't feel seen as the person you became. When your family gives you advice, as though you still know nothing, you may not be reacting only to the advice. You may be reacting to the feeling that years of growth have disappeared in their eyes. When they repeat an old story, you may not dislike the story itself. You may dislike the suggestion that this is still the most important thing they know about you. What sounds like an argument about your career, your relationship, or where you decided to live, may actually be an argument about identity, about who gets to define you, about whether the people who knew you first are willing to know you again. Understanding this doesn't mean you have to accept hurtful behavior, and it doesn't mean you can simply think your way out of patterns this old. But you can notice what is happening before walking through the door. You can quietly remind yourself, I may feel younger in this room. An older version of me may appear, but I don't have to make every decision from that version. And when the defensive answer begins rising, maybe you pause for 1 second, not to become perfectly calm, just long enough to let the present enter the room too. Maybe the goal isn't to stop 16-year-old you from walking through the door. Maybe it's to let the adult you became stay in the room with them, because that younger version of you isn't embarrassing. They learned those reactions for a reason. They were trying to belong, to be understood, to protect themselves with the tools they had at the time. They don't need to be erased. They just don't have to handle the entire visit alone. And somewhere between the dinner table and the drive home, you will begin returning to yourself. Your shoulders will lower, your voice will sound familiar again. The adult you became outside that house will still be there. They never disappeared. They just became quieter, in a room filled with louder memories. If this made you recognize something you do around your family, a like tells us to keep making videos like this. So, what version of you appears when you go home? And what is the one comment that brings them back immediately? Until next time, keep shifting your perspective. Subscribe for more Mind Shift.